Garth. So call to order this Committee of the Whole meeting for Monday, February 24th, 2020. I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented or amendment. Are there any amendments or omissions? No? Motion then? Councillor Toohey moved, Councillor Anderson seconded. Thank you very much. Any discussion? Seeing none. On the question, then all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We have no delegations for this Committee of the Whole. We have no discussion items. We have no bylaws for discussion, so that takes us straight to item 7.1, Staff Report NDIT Economic Development Capacity Grant Application, pages 1 to 53. And before we start the discussion, we have a few options there. What is Council's pleasure on this particular item? I'd like to move option 1, that we consider contracting an economic development and tourism position at $25,000 and use the remaining $25,000 for implementation of selected priority and short-term objectives from the draft strategy. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Toohey, thank you very much. And discussion. Comments? Councillor Toohey.
Thank you, Mayor Roden. I'm just wondering if council is aware that the hub has applied for a grant for a student to work at the Tourist Information Center this year?
I heard they were discussing it, but they haven't had any formal, as far as I know, no formal contact with this office regarding that.
As far as I know.
Okay, I will find out for sure.
Thank you. And this, of course, follows on from the study that we undertook last year about economic development, something that we hear a lot about. And we do get $50,000 in funding from NDIT every year to use towards economic development. It is on a use it or lose it basis. If we do not use all the funds by the end of the year, they do not roll over to the following year. We lose out on that money. And in the past, over the last 5 years of my being on council, we have used that funding, but we've used it in a somewhat ad hoc way. 2,000 here, 5,000 there, 3,000 there. So this would be a way of utilizing all of that funding and making sure that it all gets used in calendar year 2020 on a number of initiatives that have come forward, such as business walks, such as brochures, such as promoting the mosaics, etc. One key thing in here that I would very much like to see go ahead very quickly is marketing of the hotel study that we had done.
Yes.
Talking to a number of the crew and hearing them over the last few weeks just drove home the need for a new hotel here in Ashcroft. A 64-room hotel would not have fit all their needs, but it would have gone a long way towards accommodating quite a few of the crew members who came into town. Councillor Davenport.
I support definitely the position, and there's a number of things, obviously, including the hotel promotion. The mosaic walk is definitely something, basically all the things that are listed outlined by staff, which case in point staff doesn't really have a lot of time to do. So this position is integral of moving, I believe, Ashcroft into a marketing status, or there's a lot of things that we're missing opportunities, or people are just missing who Ashcroft is. We've been hit hard over 2017, and getting back on that tourism map is really important. So I'm hoping that this position will take the study that was done and run with all the suggestions and outlines that we can do, and even move it into a position of getting tourism and back to Ashcroft. So definitely support it.
Thank you. Yeah, I found it interesting to see on page 30 of the report the develop a streamlined prepackaged film policy. That was something that came up at a committee of the whole meeting at the TNRD on Friday, when a presenter from MNP who'd done a filming study in the TNRD did mention the importance to the film industry of communities being film ready.
Yeah.
That makes it much easier and much more attractive for film companies if they know they can come into a community and be handed the film policy, hopefully not that thick. Here's our filming policy, so that takes away a lot of the questions, and it really does save on staff time, because DCO Dick, I think you can probably confirm how much staff time was taken up with the filming of the Twilight Zone episode, quite a lot.
Like, quite often.
So.
Yeah.
So just as a point to council as well, if we do go ahead and adopt option 1, that means that this will be brought forward to a future come on to new business on tonight's council meeting. Or we can defer it to another council meeting if council wants more time to go through the policy or through the proposal and take another look at it. So. Any more comments, questions? Councillor Anderson?
No, just that I'm excited to see the report, and I think it is a lot to consider for council. It would be a good idea to be able to reflect on it further. I'm excited about the suggestion for a local business alliance as well, because that is something that's been missing in the community, and I think it's very important. And also the mosaic brochure is a great idea as well. The art community is quite strong in Ashcroft, and I think it's an area that we could really tap into with respect to business development as well. So.
And it was noted a couple of times, or 2 or 3 times, the lack of a chamber and things that a chamber of commerce would be able to do if we had one. And I think that this would help to address some of those issues, shall we say, or challenges around not having a chamber as a go-to organization for local businesses. All right, any other comments? No, seeing none. On the question then, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. All right, we move on to item 7.2, asset management presentation and demonstration from CFO Bhalla.
Okay, I'll go up to the podium like usually.
I will move out of the way like usual.
When you're ready, I'll turn the light out.
As usual.
As usual.
Okay, guess I should make it bigger. This presentation mode, I'll switch back and forth. One more asset management presentation. So this is a presentation of, I guess, culminating 2 years of work culminating, and 2-year agendas. You've seen the asset management plan, asset management strategy attached, as well as there's an updated policy, which is in the regular meeting for approval. So we've reached the point where the work has concluded. I always usually I put up comics, but this is an example of asset management gone wrong. Alberta has orphan well cleanup issue. Estimate is 30 billion, and their assets right now in the bank are 227 million. So, so planning went off the rails there a little bit. Okay, so we've all seen this. This is the asset management VC structure framework on how to manage assets. It includes assessing, after you assess your assets and your practices, planning around it, which means creating asset management policy, asset management strategy, an asset management plan, and then integrating that into a long-term financial plan, which is the documents you have, and I'll go over the long-term financial plan as well. And then you've got implementing the asset management practices and measuring and reporting the results. I did start off with more the measurement and reporting side, results first, and then built it after that, and you saw BI for financial statements first, and over the last year and a half, and then other parts of the software and strategy development. So where we, initially we started with the UBCM grant, Urban System did some mapping and planning for us, and an initial plan. We finished that, we got the grant, then we went into a phase 2 FCM grant, and I bolded that because I've submitted the final reports for that grant. And we are into phase 3, which is implementation of asset management. What did the FCM grant get us? $25,000. They actually subsidized my time and time around the office, and covered the cost for the curling club assessment. The reports are, I haven't gotten the money yet, but the reports have been sent to them. So, what did they want as deliverables? They wanted a GIS-centric information system, and so I provided all these. I'll go over fairly quickly because I have a lot to cover. There was a data repository view, a GIS mapping on PDF, some QGIS data. With QGIS is the open source software we've used. The data entry forms, they wanted some use of that. They wanted a set of BI reports and asset management strategy, which we provided, and then they wanted the curling club assessments. All these deliverables were done and sent off to them. So fair bit of work. They didn't give the money for free. So real cost of asset management, and I like to, you see the little budget being blown up on top? That's what generally what asset management does. So in terms of costs, these are the real costs, which would be for a community our size. So asset management, there's a number of software for asset management. Asset Finder is one of the more common ones. There's Munisite, there's PSD does a software. There's lots of them. The cheapest one is Asset Finder, and that runs around, they give a number of quotes. Once they found out that I was developing our own thing, the quote apparently fell by 1/3. But they didn't quite want me to proceed. But anywhere from 10 to 25,000 just for that software, and that's an annual fee, and then they have setup costs. There's GIS software, pretty much is controlled by Esri, which has a ArcGIS. This is used by everybody, the end user. I got a hold of end user agreement. It's hard to pin these costs because they won't advertise them, right? But I got hold of the end user license agreement, and that's about 18,000 for a community our size. And it's per license basis, and it goes up from there up to 150,000. So, and that's annual fees. Then there's web access. One of the common ones some municipalities have been getting is Lightship. It's out of Kamloops. There are others. And that's per user based, 8 to 10, depending how many licenses you get or more. And then there is PI reporting, the reporting side, which others don't tend to use, but there's Microsoft, there's Tableau, there's a bunch of others, and that's per license cost usually. What we adopted was the desktop version, which is free. That's what I use to share a lot of stuff. You can get higher tiers, the pro versions, which has more features, more collaborative features. So total software cost would be in the range of 35,000. To start off, initial cost and 35,000 and at the lowest stage. Then becomes staffing. Typically, you need some asset management expertise, GIS expertise, and IT expertise to pull it together. Per FTE, usually those FTEs are about, with benefits, is about 90,000, right? So it starts, and consulting. All of these softwares have consulting divisions to them, and that's where they tend to make the most money, is in consulting. And the contracts for consulting start at 50,000, and they go up from there, even for small municipalities. So I like illustrating this because these are all the costs we avoided. I benchmark against Kamloops. These are the different spendings of different areas. Burnaby spends 1.2 million, this is just GIS. Coquitlam 1.1 million. Kamloops 611,000, Kelowna 500, Surrey 2.7, 675, Victoria 630, and it goes on. And staffing is underneath. It's really small, but you're looking typically 6-7 staff, and for the bigger municipalities, 20 to 30 staff doing the GIS. So the bigger cost in software is the staffing, even for small municipalities, 1 or 2 FTEs cost one or two extra people is a big, big cost. So I started out looking at this to find a solution to this, because we cannot do the same level of work and have the ability to spend that much money. So what did we do? So another example, Penticton, the geospatial strategy is 25,000 people there. I think you've seen this graph, these figures before. It's about 500,000 a year in GIS, and they exclude IT costs, and in small print there's 1.25 million paid for project costs, and mainly that's for consultants. So these are real costs, not numbers made up. It's actual costs communities are facing. Why are they facing this? It's become pretty much mandatory. Our big report we do to Provin, LGIS, now sent out an email saying asset management reporting will be part of it. So the pressure to do this, Ontario's legislated it. LGIS is the last step before legislation that we are supposed to. So what was the solution? It took me a lot of work over 2 years. Last year particularly, I've been here pretty much most weekends, if not with my kids here working away, building this. So the solution was to collaborate together and learn together. That was one way of dealing with this. Sharing resources freely, educating, and conducting workshops and seminars and letting people know, okay, this is another way to do things. And using our colleagues as resources to find solutions to this challenge. And then there was a research involved in software, so settled down with open source, which doesn't require any licenses, and it's free as long as you go over the learning curve and set it up to work, which is the challenging part. And then leveraging the cloud. Most municipalities will use their local computers because of the licensing structure, really, because it doesn't allow, and so they have their own servers, and their structures are challenging. They've got multiple servers, and maybe I have a picture of a typical IT setup to make this happen. It's multiple, arrows, data flowing everywhere, and multiple servers. The only way we could do this was being absolutely frugal. That means not spending a single penny if we could avoid it, right? And integrating and keeping things simple, and the solution to that was integrating spatial and database technology. Initially, I'll be going over the PowerPoint, then I'll get into the demo. And please interrupt me anytime for questions, because as you know, I go really quick over things, so please stop me, otherwise I'll be on in my way. Okay, so here's the map of a typical setup. This is typically what a structure, and this is, I think, Penticton setup. I'm actually going to escape out of this, so I can actually draw there. This is Penticton setup. Okay, let's try to do some. There. I like this thing because I can draw on it as well. So it's a pretty complex setup. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 servers at the minimum and 2 sub-servers. The setup we ended up with was this, on this end. And that is a central cloud-based setup where a number of clients are accessing the same database. Takes a lot of the complexity out of what you're doing, but it required some learning and using some few different open source tools and open source programming paradigms. So the solution started with the revised policy. You've got the strategy, you've got the asset management plan, and you've got long-term financial plan. All of these are shared. I've set up a website. I'm starting to share it now, and I've set up a venture which basically shares this stuff. And you can go on the website and download all of this and modify it, and other municipalities can do that, saving themselves probably a 50,000 consultant bill to draft up these things. So freely shared, and I encourage you to I can go in the website. Maybe I'll go later and show the website as well, so you can see it. So solution had to be a practical and operational tool. which meant designing with the end in mind, which meant starting with, I should make it bigger again. Want to draw on this, but might not be possible. Yeah. So design with end in mind. I'm sorry if the audience can't see, it's small, but basically looking at reporting first and what you could get out of it. So every time we made anything, there was a use for it. It wasn't just designed for the sake of designing something. Be factual and not fluff, which meant empirical focus and not presuming relationships. There's lots of vendors out there who will optimize your asset management, and they presume, and it's very common, and I won't, they're sending us emails all the time, but they presume that a level of service has a direct relationship with, your asset, and it's a very defined relationship, and then asset only lasts 30 years, the engineers, and can't last any longer. So they've defined these relationships which are not really direct factual relationships, they're sort of linked, and then they try and optimize over those, multivariate optimization and say, if you did this treatment for the road, there are 50 treatments, it'll extend your life and save you this much money. And all that stuff sounds really good, it looks great in graphs, but factually, when you're actually running and repairing roads, it doesn't mean anything. We don't have 50 treatments to put on roads. Either you fill the cracks or you repair the road, pretty much, right? You could do a couple of other things, batch fixing, but a lot of that stuff is fluff. But I'm amazed how many municipalities are buying into this and spending tons of money doing this. And it looks great on paper, but in real life, it's not practical. And then we have to have a tool which is tied to our annual budget process and long-term planning. And we'll go over it, and I've given out those big spreadsheets. We'll go over it and then we'll link into it as well. Okay, real cost. This is where I wanted to write. And I have that same graph there. And let me try and see whether I can. It worked when I was playing with it. Okay, I can't draw. So basically what I've done is this whole software cost, I've reduced it to 0. And it's available it's done for us at 0 for our municipality, but it's available for other municipalities at 0. So 0 software costs. Because every license is open source, except the Power BI license, which is basic desktop, is free. Municipalities can choose to do more advanced versions, but basically eliminated the 35,000. Staffing, that's the second part of it. How I dealt with it is said, okay, this basic level of service is free. If you want time spent on it, like designing, doing some advanced GIS, getting parcel map DC, then you'll have to pay something to make it feasible, because that's time spent. But really, it's reduced by a factor of 20, the cost. So you're not spending, and the idea there is that the cloud can let us share our skills, share our expertise, and bring down the cost across all the municipalities. Okay, so now into demo of the system. I've talked enough. I'd like to show what it looks like. We'll start with BI reports, then do some web mapping. I'll show some of the apps we've developed. You have a cemetery app, and CAMNOOPS is kind of, I'll benchmark against, and then I'll show you the cell phone app as well. Okay, BI reports. Any questions before I move on?
So you're on the cloud right now?
I am, these reports are on the cloud, yeah. So I've gone into the website and I'm going into, so this is BI reports are available on the cloud for council. And they can be developed first financial reports, so they could see our finances online and see how we're doing. And then we went into asset management report. And I'll get into the asset management, and if you like, we can shift into the financial reports as well at some point. So you just log in, there's a login, the council knows the password, they're not supposed to share it, and they log in. It's not for public consumption, but for internal purposes. So starting 52 million in assets, and this excludes a water treatment plant, which is still work in progress. It hits our accounts That's another 10 million, give and take. So we'll have assets about 60 million. Tells us our condition profile down here. Most of our assets are fair, and then some in good condition and some sort of rated 2, which is poor, and none in critical. So here's a failure. So this is kind of like a dashboard which summarizes a lot of things. Failure versus common. So this is a risk map which lets us drill down and look at what the risk is. For example, I'll go back a little bit. I can drill in. I'll make this bigger. So let's look at that. We can drill into, so these are interactive reports. You can actually drill into it and look at, say, what are buildings made of? And it'll break it into arena buildings, fire stations, it'll split it into whatever it's made of. So these are very interactive reports and useful to actually finding out, answering questions. So I'll go back and I'll switch back to the report, main report. And similarly with this dashboard. If I click on this, which is the highest risk, right up on top there was the highest risk failure. It tells you basically what it's made, how much is it, and what part of that risk is. So let's see what the risk is. This one here at the bottom, it says install date by year, and it's really small, so I better make it bigger. I should actually look at that screen more so than mine, because it's hard to see. So most of our assets were bought in the 1960s and up to the 80s. So it tells you how old our assets are and how much the need is to actually start planning the replacements. They're not going to last forever. And this is a common truth that most municipalities have assets which were built in that period. So now we're dealing with asset management, but a lot of years have gone by and our reserves haven't been built to the extent they need to be. And here's another view of the risk analysis. Lets you drill down onto the risk and give a better idea of what the risk is and where it is. And this is important to figure out which assets are actually highest risk. So you want to replace the assets which have the highest risk, meaning which have the highest consequence and the highest probability of failure. If you have money to invest, that's the first thing which needs to be dealt with, right? And then you prioritize. It helps you prioritize what you're working on. This one is more financial view, which looks at the replacement cost, the current replacement cost, which is real dollars to replace it here, and how much has depreciated compared to the actual replacement cost. So as you notice, which tells you by the age, most of our assets are well depreciated. Maybe I shouldn't use the word well, they're depreciated. The next set of things actually show the backlog, which is basically assets which are past their life. Now this is where, when I was talking about optimization and all these companies out there trying to optimize, most of our roads are past their life. Mm-hmm. Do we say they're done? We have to get new roads for everything? No, we still use them. So this idea of, binary, whether when it's done, it's finished. No, there is always a backlog you'll carry. And the idea is to start putting enough aside that you start dealing with your backlog and dealing with your critical assets. It's not like all of a sudden you replace everything. You won't replace all your pipes because they're past the engineering life. Our pipes are past our engineered lives, but when we look at them, the mains are in good condition. They're not the ICF, Brian, correct me, asbestos lime cement. I couldn't remember the acronym. They are in good condition. They are hard pipes. When we have breaks, there are breaks on the lines coming out, not on the mains. So, as far as replacing them goes, we are not at that point, and we are lucky to be at that point. There's a graph about sustainability. A lot goes into it. But basically, it tells you what we should be saving. Green is good, red is bad. And where we are in each structures is right on top. Let's make this bigger. Oh, there. So in structures, we are in yellow. we're putting aside 114,000. What we need to put in is 202. Fleet, we're saving beyond it, and it tells you where each is. The worst is roads, and the next one is buildings. And buildings with a grain of salt, because they have an engineered life, but we don't tear down the building as soon as, we didn't tear down the curling club as soon as it reached its life. So, you have to, there's more data improvement which needs to happen. Like the structures in place, we need to start putting in revised lives and extending lives and putting those things in, so we get a clearer and clearer picture. But this graph gives you how well we are saving to replace assets. Fleet and equipment, excellent shape. Roads, water, wastewater, roads in worse, we are in the red. And that's where we have a shortfall, and I've been encouraging to start putting aside money for that. And then buildings after that, and then wastewater and stormwater. So it will give you a sense of what we need to save and where we are. And we are doing it in two ways. We are doing explicit funds, where we actually set up reserve funds, and then there's one general capital reserve fund which sets some aside. So, and I have ratios here, I call it a sustainability ratio, and it goes from 1.28 for equipment, so we are saving more than necessary for equipment. Fleet at 1.09, so just right for fleet, and then it keeps going down. So this sustainability ratio tells you how we're doing. We need to save a total of 1 million a year. We are putting aside 580,000. Numbers look, you can't see it, I'm sorry to the audience, but I wish I could make it bigger, but that's what the numbers are. So we do put aside 17.85% of our taxes to a reserve fund every year. So we're not as, we're doing quite well considering where a lot of municipalities are, but this gives you a clear picture where we need to be. Right, so, how am I doing for time? Oh, good?
You're good. Half hour.
The next graph is financials. It tells you what your amortization is without having to do spreadsheets. So it calculates your amortization, acquisition dispositions, and life cycle costs. It's a lot of accounting stuff. Most people won't be interested, but for us accountants, this is good stuff. Physical condition looks at the physical condition. So there's a there's physical condition, there's functional conditions, and there's condition. Not to, so it looks at different parts of what an asset is, and this is a physical condition. I won't get into depth into that, but it gives you where things are. There's a little red critical condition there, and I'll click on it, and let me drill down and to answer your questions. So this is what you can do. You can drill down, and it tells you hot tub is in critical condition. We knew that.
We did that, yeah.
What hot tub?
It doesn't work. So the rest are some is no information. I won't get into details of each. We could spend time on each aspect of this, but and there's functional condition, and I haven't populated this very much, as you can see. The only one place where functional condition isn't adequate is our reservoirs, and that little bit is our reservoir down there. Let me hover over it. Structures, it's in structures, yeah, that's reservoirs. So this one has to be populated, but I haven't been tracking. So basically it's tracking functional condition for each and every asset. We haven't really, so the ones which I see there's a functional condition, like reservoirs are inadequate, we've tracked that. And I'll only track the ones which is worth, rather than inputting and guesstimating for each, right? There's one called green infrastructure, and it's in green. No. And this is tracking natural assets and tracking enhanced assets. We've got 4 enhanced assets which are basically parks. Legacy Park, Mesa Vista Park, Millennium Park, and Highway 97 and Mesa Vista Drive. And then I'm starting to input trails, and we'll start inputting natural waterways, these are things which we are mandated to track as well now, natural assets, and we have a mechanism to track them and start putting things in. Stats of a good old Stat Canada, which asks us questions, how long are your pipes? It is 26,154 meters and 82.82 meters is the length. So the system is able to measure the length as soon as you draw it and measure the whole network length. And same with, so we can get that data. They asked for this data, and the last report I filled, I was guesstimating. Now I cannot say, what's going in. And we do have a new survey sitting on my desk, which I haven't responded to, Brian. So we keep getting these surveys. Asset renewal profile. Now I'm going to get into, okay, any questions before I kind of move into more stuff? Okay. Won't give you too long to think of one. So renewal profile this is something the demand is, what is your renewal profile 100 years down the road? What assets are going to expire per the engineering life and you'll have to replace? And this is what this is. And I've only highlighted one, but if I show everything, that's our renewal profile for all the different assets. What does it mean in real life? This is what these consultants will focus to so much. What does it mean in real life? The engineering life is expiring. Basically, are you going to stop using those assets? If you don't have any money, you're going to keep using those until you find something to replace those assets. So this, how I dealt with it was take that renewal profile, look at what's coming up for renewal in the next 5 years, take that data, which is data to export right here, export it into Excel. It's an easy step. And then that fits into our 10-year capital plan. So I use that, take it out and say, what's expiring? Is it really expiring? Ask Brian, are we going to destroy this building and build a new one? No, so that's not really. So get that real data, and then it goes into this report right here, which is our real budgeting for the next 10 years. So it goes into this report. I take whatever council priorities are for the next year we talk about in the budgeting process. I take what is coming up in the next 10-year cycle and put it in here. At the bottom is what are we using the funds, what funds are being used, so decided. So this lets me say, okay, I'm going to get 73% grant on this, I estimate. So what is the net cost, what years it's going to hit our books on, and then how am I going to finance it? So finance column says from capital reserves, from water reserves, from machine reserves, and we aren't financing anything from debt. If we were, we would say debt. At the bottom are our reserve balances to start with in 2019. Cam, I separated those, I put them together, so it's easier to read.
Yep, awesome.
So last meeting, Cam had the question, what was that 2020 balance? I said it's 2019 plus what we are saving in 2020. So I separated it so you see what the balances are to start and then what's happening in each. And this gets pulled into this database, and we can see what the cash flows are for each fund. So capital reserve, we're using, so all the ones being used from capital reserve will decline a little bit and then it will start increasing the total. Whoops, what did I do? Oh yes, it's also touch sensitive. Okay, back to the report. So what it lets me do is look at the total balances and what the individual cash inflow outflow is. And funny enough, the way us accounting treats reserve, negative is good, positive is bad. So this fits into our accounting system and you can pull the numbers and then get a real idea of what's happening to your reserves. Curling club reserves, since I know there are some curling club people here. Up here you will see the curling club, one of the items is curling club using the funds. So we have about 60,000, we use the 60,000 and it goes to zero. Right, so we can see, same with that, Where is our debt? That's where our debt is. We have intention to pay down the debt, so the debt is going to, our idea is to pay it all off, so it's going to go to zero. So that's estimating that. Fire reserves, gas tax reserves. And if I take everything out, everything together, where would our reserves be? So this is a real look at what we're going to do. So all that theoretical stuff, what is expanding in engineering life, what the condition is, what is the risk profile, what the functional condition is, all that boils down to actually having a 10-year real plan on what we're going to do. So all that theoretical stuff, it took me a while to figure this out and think about how to do this, boils down to a real figures on what we are actually doing. Okay? And then that report, which was about how much we are setting aside, those are the two critical reports, right? They tells us, are we setting aside enough for the long term? And two, what are we doing in the next 10 years? Some people extend it out to 20 years. After 10 years, you're just making things up. Right? They ask for 20-year plans. The province and the federal government do. Waste of time. Anyway, that's my opinion. Don't take it as. They also want us to tell us how we are doing on asset management. And this fancy looking graph is to make them happy. Why do we want to make province and federal government happy? They give us money, right? So this makes them happy. It just looks fancy. It's where we are in the various things they want to ask us. Teamwork, we've got great teamwork. That, we're good. We could be better. Historical costs, we have them recorded. Install data, there's a whole broad range of criteria they're asking us, which are we able to do it or not. So these are the BI reports. You all have access, and please feel free to go in and look at it and ask me questions anytime. Because some of them, as you drill down into the data cubes, you might get a little bit lost, but I've tried to keep them as simple as possible. Not simple isn't the right word, as explanatory, I can't pronounce the word either, as possible, so you truly see where we are. Right? And that's the purpose of this, to be able to convey to anybody how we are doing overall. So that's asset management reports. We have a whole set of financial reports too, which we share with council. I won't get into that. I'll get into mapping, and maybe at the end, if there's time, I'll get into that. Okay. Let's get rid of this. So, under services, Village of Ashcroft, if I go down, I have set up something called Geographic Information System, GIS. You click on that, you have the GIS map. There's a disclaimer which says we share everything freely, but don't rely on it pretty much. And there's a, don't hold us liable, basically, as all disclaimers say. But this is the GIS map. And my philosophy and what I've implemented is we share our stuff and it's freely available for anybody to look at and use. And that's the whole philosophy behind open source and being collaborative. So this is our map. On the side, you can either look at OpenStreetMaps, which is one view without the details, or you can look at Google images, or in this case is Esri, and you can focus in. This is Ashcroft. Here's the office, and that's me speaking there. No. So you can look at these views. On top of it, it's nicer with OpenStreetView, which is the default view. We can look at our different assets: wastewater, potable water, stormwater, parcel map, zoning, and cemetery. Wastewater shows you all the wastewater assets. You can click on it, and it'll tell you what it is. That's a manhole, and it's in wastewater, and that's the number of the manhole. And it'll tell you what you're looking at. For example, this is a sewage lift station number 3, and it's in waste. So everything is interactive information. You click on it, and it gives you the information. Same thing with potable water. These are just our mains. And gives you all the potable water information. Tells you where that zone 1 reservoir, its key such and such, we can identify it and we can look at it. Similarly, stormwater, I'm going through this really quickly, but you can spend time looking at things. But all the information we have about the assets is on there, right? There's some information which is not relevant for public, which won't be there. This is a zoning map with zoning, you click on it, tells you P1, right? These are zoning maps which is in our OCP translated into an online webmap. I want to focus on the parcel map. These are all our parcels in the village. I can zoom out or zoom in. If you click on a particular parcel, it tells you what that parcel is. Sorry for the size again. It tells you folio, PID, PIN, plan ID, plan number, legal details, address, what area it is, what parameter it has, what zoning it is, and
The garbage bin number.
the garbage bin number. Right.
I'm gonna switch bins.
Tells you what bin type it is too. It's a 240-liter receptacle sitting on there. You can click on the property assessment here, and it takes you to the property assessment site, and you can search the property assessment and get the assessments. I decided not to pull in that data. I would have to pay money and spend time. Your address and putting the pay not paid, all of that you already have. Oh, this doesn't want me to click that back again. You can have a garbage collection schedule, which is not tough. You go to our website, it tells you on Tuesdays we collect for North Ashcroft, on Thursdays we collect for Mesa. That's about it, right? We don't have much more of a schedule. So I didn't have to put it against each. This, though, these parcels are downloaded at least on a monthly basis from Parcel Map BC, which is a division of land titles. This used to be done by the regional districts or bigger cities, and they still do it. They have staff of 6 or 7 doing this, but land titles now has a group which updates this daily. Right? We don't need daily, we don't have development daily in the village, but you can download this on a daily basis and get the most recent data. It downloads all the property lines, it downloads everything is in there, if legal descriptions are changed, if construction is happening, all of that data is available. So the difference, and this is what's talking about being frugal, I'm just using what's available in the province. I'm not going and trying to create processes which are already available. The BC assessment information, I'm just sending a link to BC assessment. Why recreate the process and then have a timing difference? Where BC assessment has updated stuff and you haven't updated stuff and you're creating work. And why I say this, because I'm able to do this, and I'll go to Kamloops map, and this is not a criticism for Kamloops. This is Kamloops map. The difference, it's a lot busier. I'm going to zoom in. Maybe I should have connected my mouse. Let's try and click on a really small parcel. Come on, there. They do the same thing, but they pull in all the data themselves, like property reports, so no different from ours, a staff of 6 or 7. And they pull in the same data, they have a garbage property report. Their property report, they have their own development division, just pulls in that data, which you can get from BC assessment but by typing the address. So they're just pulling in the data, they must have an agreement with them, and somebody spends their time pulling this in. Exact same data is available on BC assessments by writing your PID or address or anything else. So I'm illustrating that because I needed to benchmark. The idea when I started this one, I said to council was to develop something for small municipality, which is just as good as large municipalities do, at the fraction of what they spend on it. And that's what I think we've succeeded in doing. Okay, so what else? So that's one set of maps. There's a tourism website. Since we were talking about tourism, I thought I'd pull it up. I'd shown you briefly what we were doing. So I redid the website, mosaics, all about mosaics, the trains, RV Park site, heritage culture sites, all of these need some photographs. So this is why it's not active. It's like a website which is not active yet, because we like to do. Remember, we had done this mosaic walk thing, which was a desire of council. So this is about mosaic walks. And here are mosaic walk. I had shown this earlier. Oh, I finally got the, oh no. Try again, there. So these were the different mosaics. If you click on it, I've set up an image repository which just needs to be populated with images. Somebody with camera, I intended to go, but if you get that economic development position, the person can go out and take pictures. They'll be probably better than my pictures. But so here's a mosaic. This is a description and a mosaic picture pops up. Let's look at, so this is to try and display our mosaics, right? The pamphlet, this is a digital pamphlet, in essence, right? And all the images pop up, and you can look at the mosaic. You want to look at a larger image, you click on the image, and the full-size image pops up. This is running online, so it's fast, and people are able to look at it and appreciate things. There's a write-up. So all of the things you want. There's no videos. I purposefully chose not to have videos because the bandwidth requirement is large, and it slows down things, and it costs a lot of money to upload videos, unless you do it on YouTube. So there was some, there's some balancing of things. So images convey a lot. So if you can get all those mosaics properly photographed, we can put them on there. So that's the next step. That's all what is waiting. So, I called it, this one, what did I call it? Heritage Park Mosaic Walk. It's really small. And then I also put in the Inukshuk Trail, which you can see in, let's try and move it, up on the mesa. You can walk down that trail if you've been down there. It's a nice walk. And little viewpoints where you can click on the viewpoint and an image pops up. Mayor Roden, do you remember that image?
Yes, I remember that image.
I stole that image from them.
That's okay.
I had to have something to put in there, right? So again, the same thing, displaying our walks, our, whatever the council wants to do to promote, we can put on there. We can have write-ups, we can have images. So that's two sides. Okay, I'm getting close to my time. The other thing I did was also set up a cell phone interface for Public Works to record things. I wonder whether I should, let me try pulling it up. It's password protected, so it's only for the Public Works. I think I can remember the password. Okay, similar map. Save password, no. But it has a lot more choices. What I didn't put on there was utilities like TELUS, Hydro, Fortis, the liability concerns, so we can't put those up. But for Public Works, it's useful. In the sense, if they're digging somewhere, they know they have to do a PC1 call and find out where it is, but this will help them look at, say, whether there are lines in the area. So it gives you all the lines, all the information Fortis has. Same thing they send on BC1, but in a format they can look at on the cell phone. So I'm going to change this. If I can get this. Okay. I wanted to put it in, and it'll get even smaller. I can put a model, a cell phone screen on there, but then it'll get even smaller. But basically, this is the interface for Public Works to put in data as well. And so if you give me a moment, I think I'll need to connect my mouse because I don't know the right click on this. I wasn't sure whether I'll get to this point on the presentation. So if Public Works says, okay, I have an issue at this particular point, they can right click and it puts a marker, it pulls up, and the things it allows you to then to enter is repairs. And it gives you, it filters by that particular where your marker is, what is the closest assets. So, I thought through how it could be simple. You can choose whether you're looking at different parts, potable water, wastewater. So if they were looking at potable water, it chooses the 10 closest assets to that thing, and then you can pull up. And then you can do a repair and put in repairs, and just press insert, and it immediately puts that repair in the database, puts a marker, says this repair was done at this time, this date, and now you have a record of that repair. You can attach images to that, but since we didn't, and same with inspections, we can do a bunch of inspections. The idea is, and I've seen municipalities spend $1 million on a piece of software to do exactly this. This works on a cell phone, and without any additional software, they don't have to download anything. It's a HTML5 app, so it works on any model of cell phone. I've seen municipalities spend over $1 million and then have a piece of software which is complex, not get used. So this was made to be simple, but the idea is not to put more on public works. In small municipalities, our staff is busy enough doing actual work. They don't want to be doing data, even though accountants, we love data. We cannot intrude on their work. So only in places where if they feel they want to record something, is this appropriate? And if they want to take a movie or a camera or have a document, this allows them to record all of that and then save all those documents to that particular repair or inspection. So, but it's not a thing to mandate public works to do something. It's to help them actually record data, which is useful in the long term for us. So if you have a pipe which is breaking down 10 times in the last 7 years, we know there's an issue with that pipe and we need to start looking at replacing that water main. So it's a water main pipe, right? So it starts giving us data on what is possible, real empirical data, not theoretical. Okay, this is actually at a point where maybe we should consider relining it or whatever else is required. Similarly, there's a thing for inspections. They can do inspections, they can filter, again by whatever inspection they're doing and go from there. This is where they can attach files. They can choose files from the system and attach them, and they'll keep those files with a particular asset, repair, or inspection, and then they can insert those. This one in red, map is to go back to map. This is uploading images, and which is in red because I don't want people to upload images unless they're images which we are going to use for tourism, because data on the web, on the cloud is expensive. So if you upload a lot, you're going to have to pay for it. So that was the exchange. So I developed a, I think, fairly innovative system which let us save things on our servers and have that, and save any amount of data for really cheap. The other thing, going back to the map, and it was also on the public map, is you can search by address, and say I said 1-4. It'll pull up everything with 1-4 in there. And if I hit that, it would go to that particular address. We have also developed a cemetery app, and we can search cemeteries. So let's try with, so it pops up all the cemetery information we have so far. We haven't populated everything. Nancy and Chris are diligent in putting things. Nancy's been spending time putting that. We used to have to spend hours looking for, say someone walked in and said, I think someone was buried in the 70s, between 72 and 73, and I think, so, and then we'd have to search, and it would take a lot of time. So this database is cleaning up things, putting all those paper records. I should actually have brought the map. It's a map, drawn map, with the little boxes, and we've erased and put in names, and so this lets it organize it. So say if I was searching for, it would go to the cemetery, and let me actually map the cemetery. Have to. So it's, gotta go up. It's that cemetery right there. It must look really small. Can anybody see it?
Yeah.
The cemetery, same as searching for addresses and everything. So the search functionality works well. All the data is getting inputted. It's a sort of app built on the system which lets it's actually useful for finding and actually operationally useful. So it's been a success there. Okay, I'm out of time. Any questions?
Whoa, no questions, thank you very much, Yogi. I've been watching this evolve over the last 3 years now. It's been just amazing from those very first talks where you were so excited about your plans. And the thing I vividly remember is you saying those years ago, I've started at the end and I'm working backwards. Where do we want to be at the end of this? And then I'm going to work backwards. And to see now how you've done that and what it looks like is just amazing. And thank you so much for a wonderful, wonderful job. Even I can understand it, so excellent. Any other questions? We have about 30 seconds if there's anything from the gallery. I believe Mayor Talarico, you wanted to say a few words?
I did?
You do? All right.
Oh, my.
Would like to. Or would you rather wait, would we be able to do this as a delegation during the regular meeting?
I can.
All right, we'll save it for a delegation. So just quickly, we have about time for one question. Any questions from the gallery? Okay, one question, and if you could state your name and address, please, before you ask your question.
Gloria Mertens. Yogi, is this available online? You did say that there was something, so we can see it?
Yeah, you can go into the services and GIS and the maps are available there.
Yeah, okay, the services.
So the idea is later to put in service lines. So there are a lot of questions we face. Where is our service connection? So, we don't have the lines, we just have the mains yet because that's a lot of data input. And we currently have it on cards and, stuff which is, it's not organized. So, but eventually that'll be in there. So that'll be helpful for people.
So there is some stuff that is only for public works and some stuff that's only for the council, but there is some public stuff as well.
That's right.
All right, thank you very much. Motion to terminate this meeting. Councillor Davenport, moved, seconded by Councillor Davenport. All those in favor? Opposed, carried. Thank you.